That's deep. How you see yourself can be reflected on how people treat you. So watch. And now I know we're not just going to go back to childhood, but we're just going to use the childhood analogy, okay? That's right. So watch this.
Hold on.
Yes, sir.
That for some reason that reminds me of the TV crime dramas where the interrogator is sitting back to the mirror and the suspect is sitting facing the mirror.
And they're watching it.
And you got the psychologist and the investigator on the other side of the mirror.
Yeah, watching his facial expressions and watching how he holds his body language.
Yeah.
And the tone of his voice. So they listen to the tone of his voice, they watch his body language, they watch his expressions, and they can tell you, you know, it's like the investigators at the sheriff's office. Daniel was taught to be a human lie detector. You know, and Daniel come to me one day, he's doing this to me. And I said, you better get out of that lie detector mode. He said, I'm just practicing, Dad. I said, you practice somewhere else. And I can always tell just as good, because when he come in, he get that certain look on him. I'm thinking, you better stop right now. He said, I'm just practicing, Dad. Find somebody else to practice on. Okay, so now, here it is. What's your real identity? What is an identity? Is identity something you were born with? It's a change, but that's what we always say, and yes, it can be changed. So here we go. We're going to go for a little ride here. You want, matter of fact, if you got your pencil with you, put up at the top of that paper numbers 13 and 33, just right up at the top. You see, my self-image affects how I see myself, but my self-image also affects how other people see me. So there's been chances, there's been times that we've missed job opportunities, we've missed all kinds of opportunities because when we walked in, we weren't sure of ourselves. We held ourselves kind of weird, you know. I remember I went to Fountain, and I sat before the vice president of engineering, and I'm getting ready to get hired as an engineer out there, and he starts telling me all kinds of things. And I told him, I said, you need to slow down. He's from Connecticut and Vermont. And he wouldn't slow down. He was talking that Vermont style talk and Connecticut talk. And I brought in a notebook and I started writing stuff down. And I said, can you do me a favor and just stop for a minute? He said, what? I said, I'm going to let him know what they're getting. I said, you are talking Northern and I'm listening Southern. And he started laughing. I said, if you're going to talk to me, you're going to have to find some middle ground or slow down or something. And he just got laughing. And then we got through talking. By the time we got through with our talk, the next day I was hired as a process engineer, but I come in the next day and said, you're not a process engineer anymore. I said, I want one to start with. You made me one yesterday. He said, no, today you're corrective action manager. I've already put you in corrective action because I know you know how to talk to people. I went, oh, okay. Okay. And then I moved into the process engineering part. So here we go. Everything in your life. I'm not going to say that everything comes on you because of this. No. I'm not that naive. I'm saying is the way you react to things coming against you. React. A lot of times has to do with your self-image. Right? Now, it's like if Emmy or Ann Lane come to me and start talking junk to me and they're going to knock me down, I look at them and laugh. You're going to knock Paw down, right? DC comes up and says, Dad, you get ready to hit the ground. I'm getting ready to hit the ground. I'm a big boy. That's a big boy. Okay. So I'll see it different. How when he says something and when the little girls say it. So here we go again. Here it is. Are you like the little eaglet, accepting lies and untruths from your past? Make time alone with your Heavenly Father and search out the false beliefs that keep you from soaring like an eagle. Now, when I say your past, we're going to go back to the childhood, although it might not be the childhood that done it. It could be something that happened in your teen years. Usually it's in your childhood, in your teen years, or in your early 20s is when all this stuff really starts taking root. But, again, I want you to see this. And I'm using the analogy of children for the sake of this argument, because when I go through it, you're going to see it. And you need to please take notes. Please take notes. All right? Here we go. All right. It says in Ephesians 1:18, I pray also that the eyes of your heart may be enlightened, in order that you may know the hope to which he has called you, the riches of his glorious inheritance in the saints. That right there, even there right there is a very powerful message. He's saying, here's what he's saying, but I do more than thank. I ask God of our Master, Jesus Christ, the God of glory, to make you intelligent and discerning and knowing him personally, your eyes focused and clear so that you can see exactly what it is he's calling you to grasp the immensity of this glorious way of life he has called us, or has called for us as Christians. So here we go. Again, it doesn't have to be a child. It can be an adolescent. It can be something traumatic that even happened maybe in your 50s. It doesn't. I've seen traumatic things happen to people and totally change them when they're 30, in their 40s, in their 50s. I've even seen it in their 70s. They have a traumatic event hit them, especially in their 70s or 80s when the spouse dies. When the spouse dies, you've been married to that person 40, 50, 60 years. You know, that really, really does something. If you'll notice, a lot of times, one spouse will die and the other one won't be long behind them. Okay? Because that's not just a crisis. In their eyes, it's more than a crisis, it's an emergency. Right? So that's what we're talking about. Self-image. Now, first, let's look at adopted child. As adopted child, the wrong belief is, I wasn't worth keeping. I've heard Bethany say that. I've heard her say, I wasn't worth keeping. I wasn't worth protecting. And so, you put beside that adopted child, write this in. Self-worth. Self-worth. Now, we're going to talk about something besides self-worth in a minute, but self-worth is, when you say self-worth, it's in the way that you don't belong. Self-image, when it comes to self-worth, it starts on the outside. Here's the difference in self-worth and self-esteem. Self-worth starts on the outside and moves in to your self-image. It's your own value in your own eyes. And as you begin to see the value of yourself in your own eyes, other people, remember, they see what you think. They can feel it. They can sense it. And that's how a lot of times somebody's got low self-worth, they're taken advantage of. People run over them because of that. Because that low self-worth is from the outside and it moves in to your self-image. Now again, I want you to think about something. Hebrews 13:5, he says, I will never leave you nor forsake you, that you may boldly say that God is your helper, you shall not fear what man shall do unto you. Let me just read this a little better. Not better, but in the Greek. Let me change it. Not better, but in the Greek. I'm trying to get to the part. For he himself said, I will not in any way fail you, nor give you up, nor leave you without support. I will not to any degree leave you helpless, nor forsake you, let you down, relax my hold on you, assuredly not. So what he's saying is, I'm not going to leave you, that's physical. And I'm not going to forsake you, that's emotional. He says, God says, I'll be with you physically. You might not can see me as this big old God, but you will see me through the hands of somebody. It's like a little boy was hungry, he was cold, and he went up and said, Mister, I didn't have any shoes, it was cold outside, he was hungry. He said, Mister, I'm about to freeze to death, I'm hungry. He said, just go up into this door, up on this place, tell him where to go. He said, knock on the door and say John 3:16. So he knocked on the door and said, John 3:16. He said, come in. He said, I want you to go in the kitchen. And he says, when they ask you, do you want something to eat? You just say John 3:16. He said, John 3:16, they gave him a bowl of soup. And he said, anything they ask you, just say John 3:16. He said, well, I'm kind of nasty. He said, we're going to take you a bath and put in some clean clothes, warm clothes. He said, okay. So each time, John 3:16, and all those things are taken care of. And somebody says, do you know what John 3, at the end says, you know what John 3:16 means? He says, well, I can't quote the verse. He said, but I know that John 3:16 first, it takes you in. It feeds you. It comforts you. It clothes you. It takes care of you. John 3:16 is awesome. The same way with God. God said, I'll never leave you or forsake you. He'll be with you physically. He'll be with you emotionally. So here's the wrong belief. I'm not worth keeping. Here's the right belief. God not only cares about me, He adopted me, and He will never leave me. The Bible says in Ephesians 1:5, He predestined us to be adopted as His sons through Jesus Christ. Wow, He is already predestined. It's already there. He's already taken care of it. I like this. Long, long ago, He decided to adopt us into the family through Jesus Christ. What pleasure He took in planning this. Wow. God had a plan for us before we were ever born. That's awesome. Somebody says, well, you don't see how bad I've messed up. Let me ask you a question. If you don't think God can take care of you now and in the future, say, He already knows what I'm going to do in the future. He knows where I'm going to mess up at in the future. You say, well, how can God take care of that? Think about this. When He died on that cross 2,000 years ago, your past sins were future sins.
That's right.
When He died on that cross, your past sins were future sins because you weren't even a twinkle in your daddy's eye. Your daddy wasn't a twinkle in his daddy's eye 2,000 years ago. So God can take care of us. Amen? He's got this. He's got us. Now, so first, self-worth, and it starts from the outside, and people sense it, and they will take advantage of you when they see that going on inside. Number two, and again, we're using children as analogies, but it doesn't have to be a child. As a matter of fact, this right here, a child of divorce, can be a person that's 20 years old. A child of divorce, the wrong belief. I must be the reason my parents divorced. Now, beside child of divorce, just put life-altering events or devastating events. One thing you got to remember, when somebody's suffering from divorce or something of that nature, a life-altering event, maybe it might not be necessarily a divorce, a life-altering event. Also, it could be a loss of a limb. It could be, it can even be the loss of a spouse.